Good morning, Kevin.
Morning, Bede. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you going?
Good. What are we talking about today, Bede?
What we're going to do is we're going to talk about freedom while living.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we're going to be talking about what it means to be free while engaged in the act or functioning of living, which is something we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so when we're looking at freedom, we're going to start by seeing very clearly what it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to be interested in freedom while living while you still believe that you're being free.
No.
You see, the thing is that we can only value something for ourselves. We are our inner inclination, which is what we are, from the heart. That's where our values lie. We can only value something when we see its value to us.
Yes, and if you're not aware that something's lacking or that could be better, you might be looking for it.
Right, and in terms of Vedanta, this freedom while living is the summa bonum, the supreme good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's just have a look at and when we do this, let's examine our experience as a human being in the world. Let's not get theoretical or conceptual, but really see our condition in relation to this freedom that Vedanta talks about. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, one thing I will say that this freedom is centered on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So freedom is something that is to be recognized and then to be lived.
Mm-hmm.
And if this freedom can't be lived, it's of no value.
No, you live your values, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, you can learn a lot, you can learn lots and lots about Vedanta and the Upanishads and all of this sort of stuff, and you can know and, you can spout it off. But fundamentally, the big question is am I being free while living? Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just start with the being not free while living, which I have a PhD in.
Yes.
And I'm continually shown every day in my life my non-freedom, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the first thing that is so characteristic of human life is we are constantly, in one sense, in friction, in a fighting stance, what Swami Dayananda called a ninja stance.
Mm-hmm.
We're upset about the thoughts and feelings that are happening in our mind.
Mm-hmm.
We're upset about what other people have said or done.
Mm-hmm.
And we're upset about what circumstances are happening.
Mm-hmm.
We have this feeling of resistance or fighting against. Have you ever experienced that feeling of being kind of upset with and fighting against things that are disturbing you?
Yeah, and it certainly the not wanting it to be different.
Yeah, well, I want to go into that later, actually. I'm just talking about we're fighting, something is happening.
Mm.
The happening might be the appearance in our mind of certain thoughts, memories, anxieties we have. But this resistance or fighting against what is happening. Hello?
Yeah, you're still there?
Yeah. So what happens, and one of the characteristics of life is this fighting against, being tense against. Okay?
Mm. Yeah.
Having the dualism of me as a resistor fighting the resisted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, when this is happening, it's extremely clear that we believe that the thoughts or the feelings or the other person's actions or behavior or the circumstances are making me unhappy.
That's the general experience, yeah.
Yeah, that's our experience.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be upset about it.
No.
Okay? We're upset about it because it is the problem.
Mm.
Now, Puja Swamiji says a very interesting thing about that. He said, no. The problem is centered on me.
Mm.
So it might be, I might, you see, what he unfolds measures us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sheds light on our life.
Mm-hmm.
So fundamentally, we might have all sorts of wonderful conceptions, but basically we're often in a state of fighting against, resisting against what we consider to be the problem, what we experience to be the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And what this does is, we have various words for this. A trendy one in our Western world is stress. But what all we mean by stress is it's a form of unhappiness, of resistance, of fighting. Now, is there any peace and composure when you're fighting, when you're being a fighting person against an it that's upsetting us?
No.
No. You can't have a peace centered on ourselves while you're fighting.
No.
It's just not possible. But what's really interesting is that in terms of when we're looking at all forms of psychological suffering, which Vedanta has a very elegant solution to, all forms of always involve this dualism of me being a resistor, pushing up against the resisted, fighting against the resisted, thinking about the resisted, struggling with the resisted.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So now, when I'm in that state of fighting and it's been caused by an it that's external to me, am I being free?
I don't think so. When I'm doing that, I might feel very, very right that I'm upset and I'm very angry that whatever's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I might think that I'm doing the best thing possible, and my response is justifiable. And
but I'm being caused by the environment, aren't I?
Yes, that's my experience, and you've upset me, or the situation's upset me.
Or your mental conditions upset you. So therefore, there's no freedom in that. You're being determined by something external to you, and you're convinced that that is the problem.
Yep.
And that's why we try and change desperately the things around us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yep.
But what characterizes is we become disturbed. There's no composure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We are fighting. Ninja. That's what Swami Dayananda calls it. Ninja. The ninja stance.
We might think that we're composed, but I think any independent party looking at us mightn't.
Well, we might feel we're right. We're right in our non-composure, and it's been caused by somebody else or something else. But fundamentally, our fundamental thing is that with every form of emotional upset, there is an absence of composure.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think we can agree on that.
Okay. Now we go to the next part. What happens is that, at one moment we can feel elated. The next moment we can feel deflated. One moment we can feel irritated. Then we can... So what happens is we're always becoming these... And this is always on a moment-by-moment basis, by the way. I'm not talking about freedom as a point to be arrived at in the future.
Yeah.
I'm talking about whether we are right here, right now, as we are appreciating freedom, or right here, right now, as we are being enclosed in slavery. I'm not interested in this nonsense about the future. We're what what Swami Dayananda says is that this freedom is a journey without distance. It's right here, right now. It's not some future event that I'm going to get. Okay? What he wanted us to do is to recognize and appreciate a freedom that is available right here, right now, as we are. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the next thing is that we're constantly chopping and changing. There's no sameness.
No.
Someone says something that we like, and we go, "Oh, that's nice. I like that." No. So in response to the environment, in response to external things that are happening to us, thoughts, feelings, other people, and what they're saying and doing, and conditions, that's all we have. We suddenly find ourselves reacting about that. We become various mental states, happy mental states or sad mental states. We become a thinker. We literally, but it chops and changes. There's no stability. One moment we're this, the next moment we're that. We decide in the morning, okay, when I get up in the morning, I'm going to go for a run. A different person wakes up in the morning and says, I don't care. I think I'll put the alarm on and I'll do it. There's nothing the same in us. There's no sameness. What happens is that an event happens and then there's this mental state. Swami Dayananda said it's like forms a chain. One links, it's linked to the other, then another one comes and another one comes and another one comes. Chopping and changing. And again, if I'm being chopped and changed by external things, am I being free?
No.
It's just not possible.
No.
So, I mean, is it possible to know all about Vedanta but yet be unhappy? Of course it is.
Well, you might think you know all about Vedanta, but...
Well, it's because it's not a matter of knowing all about. What Swami Dayananda... You see, there's a thing of abiding in a vision, living the vision, which is not knowing about Vedanta. Vedanta unfolds a vision which you can live. But we're either living it, or at any one moment we're either living the vision that is Vedanta, or we're not.
Yeah.
And if I'm chopping and changing, I'm caught up and identified with a mental state of unhappiness or frustration or ego inflation. Oh, I'm such a legend, I can't believe myself.
Yeah.
That is not being free, and it is not living the vision. So I have ample evidence every day that I am living in a way often that I'm not being free while living.
You're being determined by
external events, by appearances.
Yes.
So what's happening is a thought comes and then I feel this way. Oh, I wish I could be more positive. Like, I wish I didn't get so angry. All of that stuff.
Yeah.
We're constantly reacting to what is happening, and that reaction is chopping and changing. Okay?
Yeah.
So there's no stability, no sameness. Okay?
Yeah.
And this is what Swami Dayananda, his brilliance in showing it. We have one problem. It's centered on us. You see, the most extraordinary thing that I found, I always thought that, when I read these books on the Eastern religions and stuff, they talk about samsara. And I thought it was this great big thing that we're caught in. But Puja Swamiji, he defined it differently. He says, it's the relentless and compulsive kind of activity of trying to find happiness and security in people and things. So what he did, he squarely put the problem on me. I'm the problem. It's located with me. It's not this big samsara that's victimizing me. It's the actual activity of me seeking happiness and security in other people and things.
In situations.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's the common experience, is that it is other people, things that are other problems.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And this has to be acknowledged. You see, we're not we're not going to be able to shift away from something unless we see it clearly.
Yeah.
That's fundamental. That's why I want to talk about and, you know, discuss the fact that let's accept the reality that often every day I am not being free while living. That's me. You know, that's why when it's unfolded about, you know, freedom while living, what's important about that isn't necessarily so much the freedom while living, but the absolute recognition that I'm not being free while living. Because Pujya Swamiji says one of the important parts of the teaching is to be able to understand what the problem is and where the problem is. Well, the problem's located with me. I used to think it was the mind because, you know, my psychological studies, I thought the problem was centered on the mind. Well, that's a good one. But Pujya Swamiji says, well, have you ever seen the mind say, I'm upset? No. I say, I'm upset. So what happens is we become identified. We become fused with things other than ourselves, mental states other than ourselves. Okay? So here we have it. We have resistance and disturbance, and we have shopping and changing.
Yeah.
And constantly being determined by external things. Okay?
Yeah.
Now we get to the, which I found brilliant. You see, when we're identified with the mind-sense-body complex, there are two things here. And we are identified with the mind-sense-body complex many times during the day. Many times.
Yeah.
There is, with that identification, when we take our being and ourselves as the same as these psychophysical processes that constitute the mind-sense-body complex, we can't help but be consciously or unconsciously incredibly afraid. So he says that fundamental to human beings is insecurity, fear, because we can die at any time. It's very fragile. So when we take ourselves, our being, our life, our very life, to be the actual existence of and the functioning of this mind-sense-body complex, we can't help but be incredibly fearful. Can't help it.
Yeah. Because
we can die. And hence we have the compulsiveness of human life. Okay? Now, so he said, the fundamental problem that's centered on me is two things: insecurity, which is fear, and the other thing is self-dissatisfaction. Now, this is extremely, I thought brilliant. You see, because in the West, for example, we think that, you know, we've got all these various problems. You know what I mean? We got this, we got anxiety, we got depression, we got hostility, we've got inferiority, we've got the desires to be bigger and better than other people. We've got, you know, we've got the envy, the rivalry, the hatred, the malice. You know, it's all on. It's full on.
Yeah.
But what he pointed out is that all of these different faces of human suffering all boil down to two fundamental things: fear or insecurity, and self-dissatisfaction. I hate being the way I am. Now, isn't it interesting? Everybody, whenever anybody comes to a psychotherapist's office or anything like that, or counseling or whatever, they only have one problem, and that is fear and self-dissatisfaction. Now, I want to look at the self-dissatisfaction because the thing is that we find self-dissatisfaction so dissatisfying, we kind of avoid acknowledging it. And because we blame, we're blind to it. Now, I'll explain what that is. Let's say my beloved spouse does something that I don't like.
Yeah.
Says or does something I don't like. Have you noticed that spouses can often say and do something that you don't like, Kevin?
I allow it as a possibility.
Yeah. Now, so when you're upset with someone or annoyed with someone or irritated with someone, the thing is that it's that they've done or said something, and that's created a state in you that you hate.
Yes.
Like, I hate they've done this, and now I'm feeling horrible in myself because of what they've done.
Yes.
And then what, of course, because of the location of the problem is them, what do I obsessively try and change? Them. Do you see what I mean? Because that's how, now let's say I've got cancer. It would seem from a certain point of view that I'm upset and worried because of the cancer. No, I'm afraid that the location is the fear of death, the fear of ending, isn't it? So that, again, it's understandable that I'm afraid. We're not denying that. But the fact of the matter is, the problem of cancer is I am incredibly afraid and fearful that I'm going to die. I'm going to end. Do you see me? So for Swami Dayananda, this understanding, this first basic understanding, this primary understanding is that the problem is centered on us. The problem of not being free is centered on me. It's even if I'm in jail, it's still what the jail takes away the freedom. Puja Swamiji talks about jail does not take that freedom away. Other people don't take that freedom away. But I am being that unfreedom while living. It's located with me. But I'm a blamer. I mean, it's so easy, isn't it, to be seduced by the feeling of of being victimized. I'm being victimized by my wife, by my circumstances. But that appears that. But the thing is that I'm the one who is insecure and self-hating. So I hate being the way I am. And this absence of freedom while living is the way I am living it's a way of living in the world, isn't it? It's not some remote psychological theory.
No.
Swami Dayananda didn't unfold theories about life. He showed me very clearly what life is. He shed a light so that I could see the factors of my life in a clear way. And the most radical thing he showed me was that, yes, Bede, you have the problem that Vedanta resolves. You are fundamentally in your being insecure, and you're full of self-dissatisfaction. And you are constantly living this out. And unless there's an actual transformation in yourself, there is no hope. How dare he say that about me? Now, so are we clear so far? So we have this self-dissatisfaction is that I hate being the way I am right now. And this, often people don't really see their self-dissatisfaction. A person who is arrogant, do you think that they're aware of the fact that they feel inferior?
No, I think we're blind to it because we're blaming other people.
Absolutely, because we're blaming other people, and because we've got various things that Dr. Freud outlined very well, like reaction formation, in the sense that I'm feeling inferior, but as a reaction, as a formation, my personality becomes kind of arrogant and smug. And when I'm feeling that arrogance and smugness, that cuts me off from the experience of being, of the actual self-hatred that is always in me and that exists within every human being. If you look at what they are, when you meet someone, just understand that they are a location in which insecurity and self-dissatisfaction is bubbling. It doesn't matter what face they put on. I mean, Dr. Jung talked about a thing called a persona. It's a face we present to others. It's this face of innocence. Hi, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. Everything's good. Yep. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's, I mean, it helps the social, you know, it's good socially. But behind that face, just understand, behind that face. Now, if people get identified with that face they present to others, again, they'll deny insecurity and self-dissatisfaction. However, every time you get upset in any way whatsoever, even if you think the problem is, yes, it's my wife, it's my mind, it's the conditions. No, 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 no. It is actually a revelation of this self-dissatisfaction and insecurity centered on ourselves. And how fearful is it? Why do we compulsively get upset and angry with other people? And we want to attack them.
Because we feel innocent.
Yeah, well, that's right. We do feel innocent, and we feel right, but we want to attack them because the anxiety is so strong, the fear is so strong, that the compulsiveness of human life, when we see people attacking others, you know, the lovely feeling of standing in judgment of your brother or sister. You know, it's why it is so satisfying to find fault with other people. We have like this universal desire to find fault and to criticize and to speak badly about others. What is that? Well, it's because of the deep self-dissatisfaction in ourselves. When we're busy attacking others, we have a freedom from that, in a sense.
Because we feel innocent.
Yes, but the thing is, then we feel completely justified in our being unkind and cruel and harsh. And some people are very polite. You know, they're arrogantly, you know, self-righteous, and they're very polite with it, very socially smooth. But you can tell what they really think. But the rigidity of that form of self-righteousness. You know, when I was in the church, I met lots of self-righteous people, religious people who are self-righteous, who feel holy. Do you know what I mean? Why is that? What is the compulsion for that? Because it is a defense against experiencing and acknowledging this insecurity and self-dissatisfaction that's centered on us. And this manifests every day. So what's important to understand in terms of just our practice, particularly our practice of karma yoga, which Swami Dayananda calls, you know, the yoga is sameness, is the recognition that, you know, the recognition of right here, right now, as I am, I'm not being composed. Right here, right now, as I am, I'm being shaken by what's happened. Right here, right now, as I am, I don't like really being myself. And you see, because we need to understand the problem and we need to know where the location is. We have to be extremely clear on this. Are we clear? If we're not clear on this, we're going to miss the boat. We have to know that we are the problem. And it's, of course, it's a hard thing to acknowledge that we have this problem. Because we're so busy proving to ourselves and others that we haven't got this problem. I'm okay, I'm pretty cool, you know what I mean? This is why we have subtle forms of bragging. This is why we like to look good. This is why we want to become famous. This is why we want to be respected and honored. This is why we want to achieve and we want to triumph over others. You know, all of this obvious human stuff that's going on. This is why we criticize and condemn. This is why and in this condition of unfreedom, it is not possible to be loving or caring. It's not.
No.
It's not. We'll feel very right, but it is not possible. And the thing is this, the idea that there's someone who can be wise in the sense that Swami Dayananda means it and not be loving and caring, it's ridiculous. I mean, if a person is not loving and caring, they are not being good. If they're not being good, they're not being free, because to be free and to be good have to be the same. All right? Now, it's interesting. I found the most, like, you know, as far as Puja Swamiji goes, like, you know, he was so clear and practical. And the end part of chapter 2, you know, in his volumes, you know, on what is a wise person.
Yeah, in the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, the Bhagavad. He did this most extraordinary thing in that. He unfolded what it meant to be wise. Now, you know, when people think of what it means to be wise, they normally think of knowing stuff, don't they?
Yeah.
Like this conscious person, knows that object over there. But he actually clarified what it means to be wise. In other words, it is a way of being in the world. And it's basically what he says is that when you are at home with yourself and you're happy being yourself without any form of external supports. So in other words, the presence or absence of thoughts or feelings or what people are saying and doing or circumstances, your sense of well-being and what you're being is not being determined by any of those. You're happy being yourself because of the very nature you are. And he said, this is being wise. Now, there are some people who think that being wise, in terms of Vedanta, is some kind of thing called moksha in the future that they're going to get, or knowing all about Vedanta, knowing about all of the different theories and the concepts and all of this stuff. This is not Vedanta. The end point of Vedanta is a human being who is being wise. And how do we know when we're being wise? Well, it's quite simple, it's simple. If you are being yourself in the sense that Swami Dayananda means it, first of all, it's being composed. So being composed or being relaxed, he even said that this relaxation is karma yoga. So it is, first of all, being composed, not having composure, but our sense of identity and composure come together. And this composure remains the same in the face of changing appearances. Are we clear on that?
Yeah.
So if I'm being wise, the first thing is, if I'm not being composed at any one moment, I'm not being wise. Now, Kevin asked me, so I'm being what Swami Dayananda says, I'm being otherwise. Now, I am often otherwise. I can suddenly find myself being, now, do I get upset with myself? Oh, I shouldn't be like that because, you know, I'm a Vedanta student? Absolutely not. Because Swami Dayananda says, what's most important is to be alive to facts. This is the true spiritual thing. Alive to facts. If I'm tense, that's a fact. Is that right?
Yes.
So we don't want to deny our experience. We need to see our experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But what's important is being alive to our experience, not denying it. But the difference is, through the light of Vedanta, I will be seeing that the lack of composure as lack of wisdom. I won't be seeing it as a psychological problem. Oh, I've got a psychological problem. I'm tense. No. It's just simply, at this present moment, right here, right now, as I am, I'm not being wise, and this is my problem. I'm not being wise. So that's the first thing. So composure. We clear on that?
Yeah.
The second thing is, have you noticed that if you're chopping and changing, what do you know? You see, if I'm chopping and changing right here, right now, as I am I being wise?
No.
No, because I'm changing because of the environment. I'm not being wise in the sense that Swami Dayananda means it. See, what was so beautiful about him was he made it quite clear what the end. He said, if we don't know what the end is, we won't know how to. The means will not be available to us.
No.
It's just so important. So right here, right now, as I am,
Mm-hmm.
I often come alive to the fact that I'm not being wise. But that's grace. That's the grace of the teaching. I mean, isn't it a wonderful thing? It's a new perception. Whereas before, my wife's upsetting me. That was my personal meaning of my experience. Now it's a fact of, if my wife says and does something that I don't like and I'm being disturbed and shaken, in the vision of Vedanta, this is not being wise. I'm not blaming. I'm just seeing the fact of, oh, right now, right here, as I am, I'm not being wise because I'm being shaken.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to deny the facts of my existence, because primary to Swami Dayananda's teaching is this thing of being alive to facts. Because he says, if you're not alive to facts, you're not living, he said. He says you're actually not living unless you're alive to facts. He defined living as being alive to facts. So it's not about me becoming, a good person or a smart person or a wise person, and becoming all of this, becoming that, and becoming this. Okay, so we're tracking so far, Kevin?
Yeah.
So being composed, being stable, not being shaken.
Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, being at home with myself. Being at home, being what I am. Now, it's true, when you're angry, you can't be at home with yourself when you're angry.
No.
It's just not possible. Okay?
So being at home, is that another way of saying the wanter in me, where I'm often wanting things to be different, myself to be different, other people different, that disappears? When I'm being at home with myself, when I'm remaining with myself as I am, and I have no problem with that, I don't want to become something different. Yeah.
The self-dissatisfaction is not there. Is not there.
Yeah.
Now, when that self-dissatisfaction is not there, I'm also stable and I'm composed. When I'm composed, I'm stable and I'm at home with myself. When I'm at home with myself, I'm stable and composed. When I'm stable, I'm composed and I'm at home with myself. So it's not, we split them up. Now, the thing is that the freedom in the absolute sense, we may be far away from it, but what Puja Swamiji said was that before the absolute freedom, we have to experience it. We have to actually attain in relative form what we're going to attain in absolute form. Okay? So, and we know that, you see, the Hindus often talk about Satchitananda, you know what I mean? Now, all that means is that when we are just simply being ourselves in the way that I'm talking about, when we're being ourselves, we also know that to be ourselves also means to be aware.
Yeah.
So being ourselves is Sat, being. I'm being. So anytime I'm being, that's Sat. And I can be being while living. And then to be aware, I can appreciate quite clearly that when I'm simply being, when I went to Puja Swamiji once and I was asking about this being business, he said, he looked at me and he says, simply be your simple, naked self. Before that, I had that idea it was some kind of, far away mystical thing. But he was talking about be myself. Just be my, not real self, spiritual self, just this self that's here. So when you're being, you find that to be is also to be aware, which is, they say, Chit. You also, because you're just simply being, you're not being this or that. That's what he means by freedom. But he says that what we need to do first is become the adjective before the noun. Now I know for a fact that can I remain the same? Can I remain composed, stable, and at home with myself in the face of all of these different changing events without fail? Absolutely not. Okay. Now I also know that I can describe it. You know, like I'm composed, I'm stable, I'm at home with myself. They're all attributes. They're descriptions that I can give. That I'm experiencing myself as a composed, stable, and at home with myself individual. Is that true?
Yeah.
That's an adjective.
Yeah.
Right? So he says that this is what we have to first become before we actually appreciate ourselves as this freedom itself. Now, I don't know much about that as, you know, yeah, being absolutely, do you know what I mean? I'm not like that. But when we're talking about the practice of karma yoga, we are practicing remaining the same in the face of changing experiences. It's not possible to understand what that means, to see the meaning. You know, Swami Dayananda often he'd say, see the meaning. You know, if you don't know what, you don't know how. He says, you can only see what you know. That's what he would say. So if you don't know what he means by freedom, you can't see freedom.
No.
It won't even, you'll still be blaming and all this stuff, right? So the thing is, the most important thing is the discovery of what he calls this attitude that's born out of the understanding of Ishvara, which we've discussed in these talks, that when we right here, right now, as we are, go quiet and we appreciate the presence of reality in whatever form it's in, what happens is we find ourselves, through receiving Ishvara into our life, into our heart, we find ourselves being relaxed, being composed, being stable, and at home with ourselves. Another way he said this was being in the lap of Ishvara, resting in the lap of Ishvara.
Yes.
He even referred to this relaxation as yoga. See, if there's no, you know, the practice of Vedanta, this living, you know, because there are two things in Vedanta. We have to, first of all, awaken to the reality that it unfolds so that we see the reality. You'd listen to Puja Swamiji and then you'd see what he's talking about. So you have to awaken to it. Then what you do is you have to live what you've awakened to. Now, what you awaken to is a vision.
Yeah.
What are you going to say?
I was just going to say, well, when you fall short of that, rather than condemn yourself, it's more a marker to see you need to recognize that and not to be blaming, but see what that you have fallen.
When you see that you're actually not being wise, that is actually the light of Vedanta in your life. That is the light of Puja Swamiji's vision in your life. That's grace.
So rather than deny it, it's a grace to see.
It's being alive to facts.
Yes.
You see, being alive to facts is it's actually because when you're filled with the presence of Ishvara, that enables you to see, actually, because you're filled with reality as it is.
Yes.
For Puja Swamiji, there was no difference between God in your life and what's here in your life. He made no distinction about that. So that when you're filled with the reality instead of your own personal stuff, you can see, you can be what he calls alive to facts. Now, the practice of karma yoga is practicing being, you know, in a relative form, not the absolute form, because I don't know what the absolute form is. I mean, you know, I don't know what that is, but it's practicing being free, relatively speaking, while living. What becomes incredibly important then is that, and I'm not trying to get some future spiritual goal. That's a loser's game, that one. He says this is a journey without difference. That's what he said, without distance. So what I become attentive to is right here, right now, as I am. What am I being? Am I being stressed? Am I being unstable? Am I being not at home with myself? Often I see myself like that. Thank God I can see that, because then for the first time I have choice to shift. You see, if I see that I'm being unwise, then wisdom will be living the wisdom, which is being yourself while living in Vedanta. Then if I can see that, then I've got a choice, haven't I?
Yes. Yeah.
But if I don't see the problem, you see, any other understanding I have, when I'm unhappy, if I don't see that it's because I'm not being wise. Or in another way to put it, you see, before I met up with Pujya Swamiji's teaching, I had various reasons for my unhappiness. Does that make sense? My unhappiness had certain meanings for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My past, what people are doing, the conditions of my mind, the conditions of my circumstances. Now I know that when I'm in the lap of Ishvara, what he talks about, I experience myself as composed, stable, and at home. And this is something that I can experience. It's not some kind of, you know, it's a place in which I can take refuge. And when I'm taking refuge, this is what I find myself being. Does that make sense? So then from that point on, my problem isn't my mind, other people, or the world. My problem is when I fall away from Ishvara's lap.
Yes.
That's my fundamental problem. Pujya Swamiji gave this beautiful, about 2 or 3 weeks. And he unfolded the most extraordinary fact. That our problem is that we're cut off from reality. That basically we're cut off from God. God's not cut off from us. God's always embracing us. The presence of God is always embracing us as far as he's concerned. But we're not appreciating that fact. So when you're cut off from reality or cut off from God, in the sense that Swami Dayananda means it, you can't help but be miserable. It's like when you're in darkness, you can't see, you bump into things. You can't help but be miserable. You can't help but be isolated, empty, all of this stuff. That's why his teaching on what Ishvara is and coming into relationship with Ishvara is so important. He says you can't bypass this step.
No.
Some Western people, they go straight into, your consciousness and all of this stuff, right? But they don't get to grass tacks. Grass tacks is that you must come to an understanding of what Ishvara is, so that what can be born in you is this attitude, which is a psychophysical event. That in yourself, every aspect you feel composed, stable, and at home. And he said that when you're cut off from reality, when you're living in your own world as opposed to Ishvara's world, you can't help but be miserable. I went and saw him. I says, you don't see pathology, do you? He said, no, there's only order. So given that you're cut off from reality, so now when I see, once in the light of Vedanta, it enables you to see what your real problem is and where it is.
Yes. It's
a new vision. So it's a wonderful thing when I see that, you see, when I'm unhappy, I don't see that my problem is located on me. You know, I'm upset because of such and such. I'm caught in delusion. I'm caught in subjectivity. But the moment the light of Vedanta comes into my life and this perception, this way of seeing, my problem actually is I've actually shifted away from the lap. I've actually fallen away from the presence of God, the appreciation of the presence of God. You know what I mean? It's like what Plato says, like forgetfulness. Boom, it's like a veil of forgetfulness comes over my eyes. I forget. And that's why Swami Dayananda used to use this term highlighting. It's a really interesting term. Let's say I'm caught up. Let's say I'm caught up and I'm confused, and I go, oh, hang on a minute. So what I do is that because I've listened to the Vedantic vision and it's come alive in me, but we can forget it. It's very easy to forget the vision, to cease to be abiding in the vision. But then, so what you do is you go quiet and you go, okay, so here I am, I'm upset, but let's just ponder the reality that God is present and embracing me right here, right now, as I am. That I can't get away from him. His presence is here right now. So what I'm doing is I'm highlighting that vision, aren't I? And then the moment I'm actually abiding in that vision, I'm lifted out of my upset because I'm no longer being my psychological reactions. I'm no longer being hating towards other people. And I'm at home with myself. The situation hasn't changed. You see, the interesting thing is that they used to take us every morning in India on this journey to ourself. They would bring us to an appreciation of ourself as a simple, conscious, non-dimensional presence. Do you know what I mean? There was no denial of the sounds and the sights in the empirical world, but there's a shift of gravity from being a this kind of person or that kind of person to simply being our simple naked self, as Puja Swamiji talked about it. Now, what's interesting is this simple non-dimensional self, which is beyond the mind, sense, body functioning. It's beyond thinking, beyond emotional reactions, beyond physiological sensations, and beyond behavior. It's transcendent in the true sense of the word. What's interesting is that as that simple non-dimensional self, has that ever been hurt? No. That's why when you're being that, you're not hateful because no one's hurt you. But when you're identified with the mind, sense, body complex, that's something entirely different.
Yes. Yeah.
So what's important with this is that what's important is being able to see that what's important is to be able to see that it's a moment-by-moment thing, Vedanta. It's not like one day I'm going to get somewhere.
It's not like sorry.
So I go, it's coming alive to a vision, a way of seeing, and then abiding in that way of seeing while living. What were you going to say?
So sometimes, like I have the idea that, if someone says they're wise, as if they've got it. That's seen as very arrogant in our society because it's but it's not something like you get. It's something it's a moment by moment proposition of being what you're being at any given moment. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yes, being wise in the sense that Puja Swamiji is saying it is being free while living. So while living is going on, you are being free. Now, if you don't have a practice, which is karma yoga, a practice of being this freedom in relative form while living, how the hell what's the use?
Yes.
What's the use? Now, the reason that Vedanta is so practical, do you know what I mean? You see, some people see Vedanta like a philosophy, like a theory, do you know what I mean? Like a broad, and it can be easily taken as that. But it's not. He said it's not philosophy. It's a vision. The way that Puja Swamiji unfolded it is that it is a vision that you can abide in while living. So when I'm looking at myself, other people in the world, through the eyes of Vedanta, I am freed from, they made me upset. That's a way of seeing, isn't it? They made me upset. Because they made me upset, I'm now being resentful. So I can't help but be the vision that I have.
Yes.
The reason that Vedanta works is it opens your eyes to a way of seeing. And that way of seeing involves a transformation because your way you see is the way you be. So when you're seeing the presence of God, you feel you know when you're actually abiding in his vision of what God is because you feel composed, relaxed, stable, and at home with yourself. It's quite simple. But this is verification of the teaching in a very practical sense. And this is what's necessary. And in this beautiful practice of learning to remain the same, not being shaken, maintain your composure, your stability, and being at home in the face of changing experiences, the more, and you can't do this, by the way, without understanding what Ishvara is. It's not like I'm going to learn how to be stable and relaxed and, me. No, it's not that. The thing that they taught us in the morning meditation was you invite Ishvara into your world, you release all your antagonisms and everything else, and you find yourself lifted out of your identification. You're kind of above the battlefield, And it's from here we practice. So that when we're we remain in Ishvara's lap in the face of changing appearances. And when we do that, we are literally living this idea, living this wisdom. We're being wise while living. And only this is what Swami Dayananda meant by being wise. This whole idea, I've had people say, well, Vedanta sounds very intellectual. Some people treat it as intellectual, like ideas an idea separate from yourself that you have to understand, grasp, and dominate. That is not Puja Swamiji's Vedanta. He said Vedanta is a study of yourself. You don't study Vedanta, you study yourself. Vedanta is you, he says. It's your life, your values, the way you see your life. And if it's not understood that way, people get lost. It becomes confused. You might as well study philosophy. Because in my past, I've studied philosophy. I studied ontology and all of that stuff, metaphysics. Okay. First of all, what was the fruit of that study? Was it an understanding of what it means to be composed, stable, and at home with myself? Absolutely not. It's easy to have mental concepts in your head, but Vedanta concepts in your head is not Vedanta. Vedanta is a transforming vision. If there's no change in your way of being in the world, you're not understanding it. That's the fundamental message of this morning. Okay?
Thank you, Bede.
All right, Kevin. Nice talking.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.